out of my wheelhouse. Like not the crowd I'm usually
Okay.
in for these spaces.
And so, what is it about South by Southwest that makes you want to give a talk there this year? What's the appeal?
Yeah. Well, what my talk is going to be about, it's centering, and we can get into this a little bit later, but it's centering the lack of accessibility when it comes to advanced prosthetics and advanced devices, and centering that conversation, which is a conversation that I know I've had with a lot of people with disabilities that are trying to access this kind of care, and I've had in policy spaces. But I know South by Southwest, it's catered towards more of the creatives, general audience, tech people, just like a wider audience to listen to these conversations that are so important. So it felt like a cool place to talk to folks that maybe aren't as familiar with these issues as we are so closely.
Yeah, and last year was my first time going.
Yeah.
It was a blast. Went to the different little houses and to like some like secret parties, like a lot of just like really cool stuff. It was such a unique experience. I was fortunate enough that I got invited as a guest speaker for a talk about AI, and got to talk about how tech that people think is not here yet, but is actually like has arrived. And so getting to talk about using my hand in day-to-day life and just like my experience was really cool. Being on the big stage was a little bit overwhelming,
For sure.
Yeah. But hoping to do it again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What was the audience energy like? What was your crowd like?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I went out there.
You weren't looking.
No. I just made a point to kind of just talk into blank space and not pay attention that there even was an audience.
Okay.
I went out there and we not really rehearsed, but just kind of did the blocking before we talked.
Okay.
With everything, with all the house lights on and the place empty. So like being there and like kind of feeling out the space and seeing it empty made it a lot more comfortable, because like the house lights were off. It was dark. I could see there were people there, but I just kind of in my mind, I was picturing that empty room and like same thing we just did a minute ago. I'm just going to go out here and do it.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of my way of dealing with the nerves. I'd never been in front of that many people before. I think they were estimating about 2,500 people live in person in the room.
Holy cow.
And then potentially up to like 100,000 people watching live streams and stuff of it. So
that is insane. See, I mean, that's the kind of reach that like these stories, that is why we're trying to do this, is because these stories need to reach those audiences. What is different than about your panel this year, or your proposed panel this year, than last year?
Sure. So last year I just had like 5 minutes to talk. Right. It was part of just a guest spot at someone else's talk. This year I want to give my own talk. The talk that I guest spoke on centered around AI and tech specifically. The talk that I want to give this year is more like media focused and talks about my background as a filmmaker, why I transitioned to becoming a filmmaker for my career, how that really helps me kind of square the advocacy work that I want to do and it being an avenue for that. And so talking about like kind of my perspective on those things, but also wanting to talk with other filmmakers and people in this industry and kind of encourage people to see people with disability in a different way and to include authentic characters, authentic narratives about people with limb differences or just disabilities across the spectrum, and like why it's important to have that representation both in front of the camera as well as behind the camera.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge. I feel like that's the big, and if anybody has any questions too, please feel free to put them in the chat.
And we'll try to get to them. To us, Joe.
Yeah. But the one thing I want to say about that is that I love so much, and hearing you talk about it, is the fact that a lot of times disabled folks are shown, in front of the camera, where, there's the element of being viewed as an inspiration, and those kind of narratives that have really been overdone in many contexts. And I love that you are behind the camera trying to
hiding my
push the
face.
message. Not and in front of the camera too. Here we're in front of the camera. Yeah, I saw a question from someone saying that they were above the knee amputee, and I just want to talk a little bit about my panel kind of idea and the topic of access, because I, similar to you, Dale, I've had a lot of conversations about my panel topic in our kind of spaces, prosthetic spaces, sometimes even tech spaces, but it hasn't really hit mainstream media entirely in the way that we want it to. So my panel name is called "The Price of the Future Depends on Your Zip Code." And for me, it really spawns out of my own personal experience, where I faced a lot of access barriers when it came to accessing advanced technology, both in my home state of New York, where I faced a tremendous amount of barriers to access prosthetics, and then moving to a different state on the East Coast, my access to that kind of care completely changed. And then now, we're based in San Diego. I live in California, and again, my access has entirely changed. And then in talking to a lot of friends and people in the community, I have really learned that is not, and folks that are not only, upper limb prosthetic users, but like you were talking about lower limb prosthetic users too. That's not just my story at all. It's a, a system in place that is inaccessible. So that's what I want to center. That's a conversation that I really want to center on this main stage, in front of as many people as possible, and make it interactive and make it fun, and also make it clear that it's not just about disability and prosthetic users and, lack of access, because healthcare is confusing and complicated for everyone. I'm sure almost everyone can relate to how complicated it is. And so we really want to break it down and frame it in the context of prosthetics, because tech is only going to be advancing more. I think we all know that, and we don't want certain folks to get left behind. So that's the idea. We'll see. Big stage is scary, but
yeah,
you did it and you crushed it. So
yeah, well, I just, like I said, maybe that's my advice. You get one of the big talks.
Yeah.
Just ignore everything in the room.
Yeah.
Just speak to some blank space.
Speak to the person in front of me. Yeah.
You brought up a couple good points there, and when you're talking about like how your story is very common. That's one thing that I learned in my journey as a filmmaker was, growing up with a limb difference. My experience was so much different than the people around me. And, it's something that can be a really isolating experience. And I thought my journey was very unique, that, not a lot of people have gone through this same kind of thing. And the more I talked with people, the more I found out my story is a lot more similar than it is different. And that's one thing that I definitely want to incorporate into my talk, is how visibility to these things, it's not just about platitudes. There's some real benefit that comes out of having these conversations and having them publicly. We've got, roughly 1 out of 4 people, is living with a disability, either a visible disability or an invisible disability. And I think so many people feel the pressure to have to hide their disability or overcome it in some sort of way to prove that they're not lesser than. And that's a thing that I struggled with for a lot of years. And I think it's important to have these conversations so that people understand that framing in like a more realistic context and hear other people talking about it, other people they can connect with and relate to. Because I think, it would have been nice for me to have had that perspective earlier on, to have connected with people on that level and kind of understand that, like, okay, I'm not on this journey alone. That would have meant a lot to me. And so it's really important for me to share what I've learned through connecting with other people and make sure that like that message doesn't get lost.
That's huge. It's like the best feeling ever when you share an experience that you thought was so unique to yourself and so weird and so just, not relatable at all, and you're just in this experience entirely alone, and then you realize, oh my goodness, there is an entire community that not only totally gets what I'm feeling right now, but then they mention other things that you're like, oh, I felt that way too, and you can, like, you're naming that feeling all of a sudden. So
what I experienced when I first met you on that call with you and Adil, and like you being open and sharing about yourself, like I realized how, even though we're from different parts of the country, different genders, different age, we're from different generations, but like we still have like so many things that are similar, so many things that we can relate on in that journey. That really opened my eyes to a lot. And so it's, it's amazing to continue further on that journey and have these talks with more and more people. And, kind of trying to create a space where people can either access, those conversations or join in those conversations. And it's such an amazing process that I've gone through, and it's just really cool, like your story, and a lot of the people that I've met here locally that I get together with on a regular basis, and just kind of overwhelmed me a bit,
Yeah.
Someone asked when is it launching in India?
The panel?
No, just products.
Oh, that's a good question. We have not expanded yet. We are actively working on expanding outside of the US, but right now the Ability Hand is only something that somebody within the US can access. But that's a good question. And if anybody has more questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat now. But something I just wanted to, that I noticed in you talking about that is, I think a central theme to both of our talks and why we want to center these conversations is the element and importance of storytelling. Because with you, it's storytelling to talk about representation and having these conversations be visible. Because so often those connection point, like, you feel this way, oh, I feel this way, conversations happen in private. And in disabled communities, they're oftentimes it's private conversations, and obviously they're more intimate and it's more emotional. So there's that element of it. But when it comes to the access conversation, those are also that issue is only elevated to a wider audience, like some of you folks that may be watching right now. When there's that storytelling piece, when there's folks that are like, hey, I tried to access technology for, it took me a few years and I really had to fight my insurance. And it takes, a friend being like, oh my gosh, I had that same exact experience. And it's not just you and your policy problem. This is a systemic issue. So I think when it comes to our panels, the storytelling element is so important, and really excited to hopefully share. If our panels get selected, that's the point of us being on this live right now, is to ask you all to please vote for our panels. But yeah, so voting it ends next week. Is that correct?
It's on the 24th, this Sunday. So we got 4 days
end of this week. Okay, this Sunday. So how can folks vote for our panels?
So depending on which platform you're on, the link should be in the description below or in our profile. If you go to South by Southwest Panel Picker, you can find it there. Mine is called Breaking the Frame, a Limb Different Filmmaker's Journey. I think.
Yeah.
It's It's close. You type that in, you'll probably get most of the way there.
Dale.
And yours was again on?
Mine is the price of future depends on your zip code.
Yeah. Really cool title, by the way.
Sweet.
I really like it.
I like yours. Yeah. But yeah, and I think like in line with the storytelling element, it's awesome to also hear from you folks. If you either have a lived experience, you're a prosthetic user yourself, any kind of prosthetic user, or somebody with a limb difference, a limb loss, somebody in the broader disability community, or just somebody that's interested in learning more, hearing from you all is really useful. And this is how we get these conversations, you know, in the public eye on the big stage.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of cool conversations with people that don't necessarily have someone in their life who, you know, has a limb difference and would benefit from the prosthesis aspect of it. But a lot of people that are just interested in the tech and seeing how the hand is utilized in robotics, and, you know, with everything going on with humanoid robots, and where our hand fits in that, like those conversations are always really cool. And when we get into like where the future of this technology and pushing that limit, what are like the ethical implications of that? What does that mean for humanity? Like, those are always really interesting conversations that we get into with people as well. And, you know, it's just, it's really just neat knowing that like these things that like seem like distant future, these like off the rails kind of conversations are things that are either already here or just a couple of years off the horizon now, and are going to be things that like we're going to be talking about, like what are the ethical implications of, you know, replacing potentially a sound limb with a bionic limb, and like say you start replacing parts, like where is that line, like what defines our humanity, and, you know, where's that line between like if I replace all of my limbs, am I less human than I was with all natural, you know? And these things that people kind of think about and ponder today are really interesting conversations too. Because the landscape as far as like what is possible is changing every day. And like we see something different, something unique that's happening in the news every week with like one of these humanoid robots, or with like we just saw something in the news last week about someone who was controlling our hand using a brain computer interface and manipulating a robot arm and hand with thought alone. And just like these things that seem sci-fi, these things that we're just not used to being part of our everyday lives yet, that have already arrived. They're here. There's people that's part of their everyday lives now. It's crazy to think how fast this technology is advancing, and to be at the bleeding edge of that, and to like have this technology as like part of our day-to-day lives is like a very unique experience that so few people get to experience, you know?
It's so fascinating. And with the ethical questions, like, you know, I don't know if anyone is fully answering those yet, but it's such important dialogue to have right now.
Exactly. Let's jump right in.
Awesome. Well, as a kind of final send off, if you all want to go to, and I'll let you say where to find the voting again, but
Sure. So South by Southwest panel picker. Mine is Breaking the Frame, Limb Different Filmmaker's Journey. Ani's is
The Price of Future Depends on Your Zip Code.
Yeah, and if you want to connect with us at all, we're on basically every social platform. Our handle is @Psionic Inc. Reach out to us if you have any questions for myself or for Ani, or you just want to know more about the technology. Be happy to talk to you and share information with you.
Can you let them know how you vote on the panel picker?
Sure. So when you go to the South by Southwest panel picker page, You do have to sign in, so you'll have to create a profile. But then you can search by category, or you can search specifically for our talks. And there's a little heart. You just click the heart. That's how you vote. So show us some love.
Please.
And give us the opportunity to be able to share our stories on a bigger stage.
Awesome. Well, thank you all, and thank you for joining and for being engaged. And we really hope that we can center these stories at South by Southwest this year. So please vote. Please, please. All right. All good?
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.